A lonely billionaire comes to the funeral of a woman from the past and learns that he has an adult son. The young man greets him not with tears, but with accusations, and a choice: either leave again or stay for the first time. The past does not return to take revenge, but to test whether a person is able to be there when it is too late. This is not a story about how to get your family back, but about how to learn to be one from scratch. Don't forget to subscribe and like so you don't miss new stories. He hadn't planned to go. He was about to fly to Seattle. He had a meeting with the board of shareholders and a promise of investment. But in the morning, over coffee, his assistant quietly said, "Mr. Wallace, she died." "Who?" "Grace Miller." He didn't answer. He just put the cup away, stood up and said, "Get the car ready. It was windy in the cemetery." As always in this state, not a crying wind, but a cutting wind. People stood in silence, someone holding a handkerchief, someone a bouquet. He stayed a little behind, not because he was hiding, but because he did not know where his place was now. Grace, the one he once loved but left, for the office, for deals, for numbers, for the habit of loneliness. "Are you Richard Wallace?" The voice was unexpected. Young, husky. Richard turned. There was a guy standing in front of him. Tall, with slightly drooping shoulders, dark hair, gray eyes. There was something of grace about him, something elusive, his gaze, the turn of his neck, the harsh silence between his sentences. Yes. Then. He paused for a moment. "Then you are my father." Richard didn't understand at first. He just looked. "Excuse me? My name is Ethan. Ethan Miller. I am Grace's son, and you are the one who drove away one day without looking back." The wind grew stronger. Something heavy hung in the air, like the ashes of an unburned letter. "You," Richard faltered. "Your mother never—" "I wrote. A lot. Didn't get an answer. Then I stopped. But I still hoped, I guess, at least that you would show up one day. Not for her. For me." They remained silent. "I didn't know." "Convenient. That's not an excuse." "Of course not. You want me to—" "No, I don't want anything. I just said it. Because she won't say anything else." Ethan turned and walked away, without looking back. And Richard stood there. And suddenly he realized that he was standing at the grave of not only Grace, but also his old, killed version, the one where he could feel, but preferred to win. At home, he didn't turn on the light. He took off his jacket, went into the office, and took out the key to the safe. The small box with her letters lay at the bottom, somewhere among the contracts, awards, and gold watches. He never opened them. He just put them away, automatically. Without interest, without fear. He sat down. He laid out the envelopes. They were dated from 2003 to 2021. "Richard, I'm not writing to ask, I'm just telling. It's Ethan's birthday today. He drew you, even though you didn't see him. He asks why everyone has a dad, but he only has me. I didn't know what to answer." He closed his eyes. For the first time in a long time, not from fatigue, but from pain. "Cancel the trip to Seattle," he said in the morning. "But Mr. Wallace, the board of directors, move it, or let them do it without me." "Are you sure?" For the first time, yes. He found Ethan on campus, called the faculty secretary. Came. No suit, no security. The guy came out of the classroom. I saw him and froze. "What are you doing here?" "I wanted to talk." "About what?" "About her. About you. About me. About this silence that lasted 20 years. You're late." He wanted to leave, but Richard spoke. "I found the letters, all of them. I didn't read them, because I was afraid, because I was busy, Because at the time I thought I couldn't handle it, and I didn't have to. And now, he pulled the envelope out in front of him. This is the last one. Read it. Or burn it. I'm not asking. Ethan took the letter. He hesitated. Why did you really come? Richard looked into the eyes. No attempt to justify himself. Because if I leave today, I'm not sure I'll be able to come back. Do you think that now everything can be fixed? No. Then why? So that you won't be left alone, even if I'll be a stranger forever. The boy squeezed the letter. He nodded slowly. This is not forgiveness. I know. But maybe this is a pause. He turned and walked away. Slowly this time. And Richard suddenly realized that his heart was beating differently, without a shield, without instructions. For the first time in years, he was simply a man who finally felt pain. I didn't think you'd come back. The voice was not irritated, but there was a border. Richard raised his head. Ethan was sitting on a bench near the library. In his hands was a paper cup of coffee, his face half turned. I wanted to see you one more time. For what? To avoid being left in the same places where we parted ways. Because if you leave empty-handed, sometimes it's forever. Ethan sighed, not taking his eyes off the sky. You had 20 years not to leave. I know. You thought I was waiting for you? No. Then you are naive. Richard sat down next to him, leaving half a meter between them. I don't know how to talk to you. And I don't know why I need this. Probably because inside, everyone there is still a question that they want to get an answer to. Ethan looked at him for the first time in the entire meeting. Then, answer. Why did you leave? Because I was scared. Scared of what? Responsibility, attachment, guilt. Then it seemed to me that if I didn't look this woman, this life, this letter in the face, then everything would disappear. Like a bad dream. And I would be able to continue signing contracts, smiling at conferences, looking into empty windows. Did you seriously think that love could be postponed? I thought that she could be forgotten. Did it work? No. They fell silent. I grew up without a father. Not because he died, but because he chose not to be. I'm ashamed. It won't straighten your back. My mother taught me one thing. If you're in pain, walk, but don't pass that pain on to others. I tried. Did you succeed? Sometimes, sometimes not. I beat up a guy in the 8th grade because he said that everyone who doesn't have a father grows up to be a thief. And what happened to him? He asked for forgiveness. Because my mother came to his class, and she said that if anyone stole something from me, it was an adult whom I once trusted. Is she talking about me? What do you think? Richard nodded. I can't ask you to forgive me. And I can't pretend that we have a relationship. Maybe we should just start with talking? It's too late. Sometimes late is the only thing left, but it's better than never. Do you still live on Park Avenue? No. I sold the house 6 months ago. Too many walls where everything echoes. And where now? In a Brooklyn townhouse. 3 rooms, no staff, no marble. With silence. And how? Scary, but honest. Ethan took a sip of coffee. I still don't know what to do with you. You don't have to do anything. Just, if you ever want to ask me a question, don't keep it inside. I already have a question. I'm listening. When you first found out that she was sick, what did you feel? Richard exhaled. Emptiness and shame. Because I realized I would hear this from strangers, and I should have been there. I was the last one who deserved her name in the news. And if she wrote to you directly, I would have been late anyway. Silence. Was she talking about me? All the time. You were her universe. She called you light without a dome, because according to her, you glowed even in the dark, especially when you slept. Ethan looked down. She had a voice. Quiet. But it was like a song. Did you hear it? I can hear it now, through you. Do you regret it? Every day. Then why haven't you left yet? Richard turned to face him. Because for the first time in my life, I understood. While I am alive, I can at least change a little bit, not the past, but myself. I don't know if I'll believe you. And you shouldn't. Just listen. And one day, you'll decide for yourself. Ethan stood up. He looked at him, not with gentleness, but not with rejection either. I have a concert tomorrow. I play the guitar in the student hall. Small, but noisy. Can I come? I don't promise it will be pleasant, but the doors will be open. Thank you. It's not thank you, it's just, if you want, try to be there. Richard nodded. I will try. Just don't sit in the front row. Why? Because I'm not ready to see you there yet. Understood. Ethan turned around. Until tomorrow. Or not until tomorrow. That's your responsibility. He left. And Richard remained sitting. And for the first time he understood that silence between two people can be not an emptiness, but a bridge. Only if you are not afraid to take a step. Were you there? Yes. At the very end? No. Why? Because I was afraid that she wouldn't want to see me. Ethan was silent. A light wind fluttered the collar of his coat. They were standing outside the house in Riverdale, a white facade, a peeling porch, a flower bed where tulips were pushing through. This was where Grace had lived her last years. She always watered those flowers in the morning, he said, sitting on the edge of the step. Even when it hurt to get up. I didn't know she still lived here. She didn't want to leave. She said, I started my life here, and I'm going to stay here. Let Ethan remember where he came from. Richard glanced at the window frames. Everything seems familiar and alien at the same time. Because you left before it became real. They fell silent. There was only the rustle of pages nearby. Ethan was holding a stack of letters in his hands. Have you read these? Not all, but it's not to blame. It's just the voice I'm missing. Can you read out loud? Do you want to hear? I want to hear her, through her eyes, with her heart. Ethan opened one envelope. The paper was faded at the edges, but the handwriting was neat and calm. Dear Richard, today Ethan went to school with a backpack twice his size. He said he wasn't afraid, and I believed him, even though I'm barely holding on myself. You didn't ask how we were, but I'm telling you anyway. Because I'd like to think you here even when you don't. Richard closed his eyes, his fingers clenching in his palms. Read some more. He sings before bed, always the same song. He said he heard it by accident, but now it's inside. Sometimes I think you didn't disappear. You just dissolved. And every time he smiles, you're somewhere nearby. You just couldn't find the words to come back. Ethan fell silent. She wrote this, knowing that you would most likely never read it. I can hear it now. Every line, every unspoken "be there." They sat in silence. Only the birds were talking in the treetops. I listened to that song, Ethan said quietly, for years. Then I started writing my own. Want to hear it? Certainly. They entered the house, a small living room, an old piano, shelves with books. He sat down, took out a guitar, tuned a couple of strings. I wrote it for a long time. Mom didn't hear it. But she knew what you were writing? Yes, and I always asked, Ethan, play as if the whole world is listening to you. even if there is only me in the room. He began to play, quietly, with a slight tremor in his voice, without words. The music was like memory, not loud but direct, understandable without explanation. When he finished, Richard sat with his head down. "Is this your first time playing in front of someone else?" "In front of you, yes. It's an honor. And, perhaps, redemption." Ethan didn't answer. He just put his guitar away and sat down next to her. "Do you read her letters?" "One a day. In the morning." "Why?" "Because then all day long I don't forget that I'm not just living for myself." Richard nodded. "She wrote that you were glowing. I can see it. She wrote that you are afraid of feelings. I'm still afraid, only now, of losing you, before I have time to become someone real. Do you want to? To be a father? To be near?" Richard looked into the eyes. "I want to. I'm just not sure if I can do it yet." "Then don't teach. Just be." On his way out of the house, Richard paused at the door. "Do you want me to come to your performance? I still don't know who you are to me, and I don't know who I am for myself." "Then, maybe we can just start with the fact that we're both there." Richard nodded. "I'll come, but I'll sit at the very end again." "Fine. Why do you want me to sit far away?" "To understand. Even if you are far away, you still exist." He smiled. For the first time, truly. "Thank you, Ethan. You're welcome. But one day you'll say it to yourself, when you forgive yourself." They parted ways, not as strangers, but not yet as close. Like two people who finally had a common direction. "Are you sure you want to go?" "I don't know, but it seems like he should." "It's not the same thing." "I know. But if I don't go, I'll regret it later." Richard nodded. They drove in silence, only the radio whispering old jazz. Spring trees flashed past the windows. "She didn't like it when I was silent," Richard said, breaking the silence. "Were you silent often?" "Almost always. I thought that if I didn't talk about my feelings, they would disappear." "And they disappeared?" "No. They just accumulated. And one day they started pouring out like snow from a roof. Without warning." Ethan smiled slightly, not looking at him. "I thought that if I met you one day, I would say everything that had been building up. To your face, without filters. But when you showed up, I couldn't." "Why?" "Because you turned out to be not the monster I imagined. Just a man." "Thank you, I think." The road led towards Chester, a small cemetery with wrought iron gates, a modest sign for Maple Hill. They got out of the car. Richard was holding a bouquet of irises. She loved them, he remembered. At least he remembered something. "Right here," Ethan said. The stone was light, with a clear inscription. Grace Miller, 1970, 2022. She sang even in silence. "I chose that phrase," Ethan said quietly, "because sometimes when she just looked at me, I thought I heard a melody, not of words, of light." They stood in silence. Then Richard put down the flowers. "Sorry. Are you giving them to her or to yourself? And her, and you, and myself, especially myself." He squatted down, running his hand along the edge of the rock. "I remember her laughing. Tell me." "It was March. We were in Iowa, delayed by snowfall. I was stuck at her parents' house, without a suit, without internet, without supervision." She said, "Now you're like a normal person." I was indignant, and she just burst out laughing. So much so that I couldn't help but laugh back. She always relieved my arrogance, like she could turn off my entire icy facade with just a look. Sounds like her. "Do you remember her like this?" "I remember her tired, aching, but even so, she was strong, never complained, never cried in front of me. Only once, when I told her I wanted to quit music. What did she say? Then I wasn't the one raising you. He chuckled. A week later, I wrote my first song. Richard sat down on a bench nearby. I didn't think you were like this. What kind? Real, deep, stubborn. That's from her. And what's from me? Ethan thought about it. I don't know, but I see you listening. It's unusual. Because I always spoke before. No, because you never showed up before, and now you don't interrupt. They fell silent. The wind was light, the sun was soft. You know, Ethan said, I still don't understand why you stayed. Because I wanted to understand what I'd lost, and try, not to get it back, but at least to be there. Does it work? Sometimes. Ethan looked at his watch. Want some coffee? With you, yes. Alone, no. They sat in an old cafe across the street. Paper cups, the radio playing Billy Joel. Do you like it here? It was her place. We used to come after school. She'd get a vanilla latte and I'd get a double foam cocoa. What do you get now? Black, no sugar. Growing up. Too fast sometimes. Richard looked at him, a sinking feeling inside. Here he was, the son he had never known but still felt a connection to. Ethan. Yes? If I had come then, if I had opened at least one letter, do you think everything would have been different? I think so. But then I wouldn't be who I am. And who did you become? Those who know how to survive and how to forgive, but not quickly and not easily. They drank in silence. I have a photo of her, the one with the two of you. Do you want it? Very. Ethan pulled a worn photograph from his backpack. Grace and Richard, young, in front of a lighthouse. She was laughing, and he was looking at her, not at the camera. Richard took the photo carefully. I thought I had everything ahead of me. But she already had everything in you. You just didn't stay. But now I'm here. Yes. Pause. Not in the front row, of course, Ethan added. Still? For now, yes. He grinned. But not at the exit anymore. And Richard nodded, because he realized that he had finally taken at least some place, if not in the past, then in the present. Will you come? Certainly. Then promise. I promise. Don't leave until the end. Even if it gets boring. If you are on stage, it won't be boring. Ethan grinned and nodded. He no longer said you, he almost always said you. It was subtle, but important. Like the warmth of a hand you don't expect, but get at the right moment. Richard stood in front of the mirror. He hadn't worn a tuxedo for 10 years, but today he wanted to. Today was his son's graduation. The college assembly hall was bustling with activity, the rustling of dresses, the flashing of cameras, the quiet chatter of parents, the nervous glances of teachers. Richard walked to the back of the hall and sat down. Not in the front row, not by the door, somewhere in between. He didn't want attention, he just wanted to be. They took to the stage one by one, with diplomas, jokes, sometimes with tears. And then, after a short pause, the host announced, Ethan Miller. Applause. He came out calmly, in a robe, with a cap, but his step was confident, not hostile. Thank you to everyone here, especially to those who stayed, and those who came. Pause. We lose a lot during the years of study. Illusions, expectations, sometimes people. But I understood one thing. Loss is not the end. Loss is an opportunity to reassemble yourself. Pause. I had a person who left without waiting. And there was another one, who came when he should not have. But he came, and stayed. Richard froze. This center of gravity is not obvious. It is not built from memories. It is built from choices. And sometimes, one choice is enough for someone you thought was lost forever, to become your anchor. He stopped, smiled, not into the hall, somewhere further. Today I just want to say, I see you, I hear you, and you are. Pause. Thank you, Dad. There was no splash in the room, just a soft exhalation, quiet, almost like a prayer, and Richard closed his eyes. He didn't cry. He just breathed out for the first time without feeling like there was anything wrong with him. After the ceremony, they met at the entrance. People dispersed. Some hugged, some took pictures. They just stood, opposite each other. You said it out loud, Richard whispered. Yes. I didn't expect it. Me too. Why? Because I wanted you to know, you are not a ghost. You are not just an act of 20 years ago. You are here. You are. And that is enough. I'm not worthy of you. Stop it. No one is worthy according to the certificate. We just choose to be or not to be. And you chose to be. Richard leaned forward slightly. Can I hug you? Can. They hugged, not tightly, but not formally, without trembling, without straining, as if it had always been like this. Later, they sat on the steps of the college, drinking soda, silent. I saved one letter, Ethan said, the very last one. Do you want it? Very. He took a folded sheet of paper out of his inside pocket. Read it to me. Richard took the letter. He unfolded it. Grace wrote, If you ever come back, don't explain. Don't make excuses. Just look him in the eyes and stay. If he tells you it's not too late, believe him. If he doesn't, believe him anyway. Because love isn't about time. It's about choice. Richard folded the letter. She knew best. Yes, and she was right. Have we often talked about who you want to be? A musician, a writer, and now, just someone who doesn't back down. And me? Who am I now? Ethan smiled. You are a father, and this is no longer up for discussion. They looked at the evening. The city was slowly lighting up. The sun was leaving, but it wasn't disappearing. It was simply being lent to those who weren't ready to say goodbye yet. Richard came home. He took the frame. He put it on the shelf, a photograph of Ethan on stage, smiling. There was light behind him. And below, on the glass, was an inscription in marker. You came. And you stayed. And for the first time in his life he felt he took his place, not by right, not by blood, but by choice.